Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Reaction Time. Steven, don't look so excited that we're here.
I haven't been sitting here for the last 20 minutes.
Bring it down. Your fault for asking questions, bro.
I did. I went down a slippery slope with the boys. It happens.
You went down a slope of a thing that Eric and I generally know some things about that's only kind of related to our subject area. And then we talked about it because that's what we do.
Absolutely. That's why we have a podcast.
Anyway,
what is a group of guys
Eric's
called?
Here. I'm here. Steven, why are we here? Who are we here for?
We're here for the fans, and the fans go to our handles at Funky Games and like and subscribe and comment and tell us all the things that we got wrong or all the things that we need to do better, because that's good algorithm content. So tell us your feelings, talk to us, and then you can go to the Funky store, buy some merch, because you're so appreciative of what we do, and we appreciate you, and you should do those things because we love you big bunches.
Anyway, speaking of hashtag content and hashtag big bucks, we are going to. So, I watch a lot of traditional sports stuff, right? I watch the ESPN, I do the thing, and there's a commentary that one of my favorite podcast hosts gives a lot. That is, whenever something is going poorly or wrong with basically anything in the NFL, and more specifically the Dallas Cowboys. It's free real estate, baby, because it's all the clicks and view time and hours we could possibly want. In eSports, we have TSM for that. Let's talk about TSM. So the update, it is, we are recording this as we often do on Wednesday nights here in the old central time zone in North America. And there have been some TSM updates cooking through the systems today. I think just today.
Yeah, it's been like a avalanche.
And we're gonna start here before we talk about any games, because this is it's worth talking about, because I think it's already a very interesting. It's the first really interesting like flashpoint of any team at NA, and it happens to be TSM, coincidentally. So. It first came out, I think it was from a TSM statement themselves.
Yes.
That TSM are going to play, is it Kaiduo?
Is Yurson. That?
Yunson.
They're playing Yurson in support over Shenyi.
That's right.
Yeah.
In, did they say they're playing him this weekend?
Yeah. And then they're having Shenyi play in Academy to, the explanation given in the statement was that the culture shock of moving to NA was too big, and so they wanted him to have more time playing at the academy level before he has to play on LCS stage again.
So, and that is what it is.
I've seen it before.
I think before they released that statement, it had come out that Shenyi was starting an academy for TSM this week. So they then put out the statement that this is why. After that, I have had Reddit be dead for me, but I'm trying to find the thread that I posted earlier. See if I can get this to load.
About a coach being
there we go.
Severed.
So Travis Gafford, notable reporter and well-sourced member of the eSports media, tweeted this at 6 p.m., so about 4 hours ago, this looks like. Sources, a member of the TSM coaching staff was released this week, and TSM players were said not to be scrimming as of this morning and early afternoon. This news follows the organization's announcement today that Shenyi and Yurson will be swapping LCS and Academy duties. So, Eric, what was your initial reaction to all of this news?
So Shenyi getting time to gel in Academy makes a lot of sense to me, and it seems like a pretty smart decision, not just from like his individual play, which clearly was suffering a bit, but more from the fact that the starting team in the LCS was like a complete had zero confidence and had no idea what they were doing on the Rift, even in like they've talked about it in interviews. So it's pretty clear cut that Tactical and Toonies in particular like definitely didn't know how they were supposed to win games. And And so like taking one of the control factors out, moving to a roster with maybe where maybe they could be communicating in English on the Rift, and then like mainly translating just for Kyoto, as opposed to, you know, being more Mandarin dominant in how they're approaching it. We'll give them an option
Uh,
here, but I'm not sure. Is
your son
Yurson
is
also?
Taiwanese.
Oh, he is. Oh, wow! I missed that he was also one of the people they brought over.
That's what I was just checking on.
Okay, so then they're gonna still be Mandarin with Spica translating. Oh
That
boy.
would be my assumption.
Well, has he been over here longer, or is there something else going on?
I don't think so, but I'm looking to see if I can.
I mean, there's a ton of legitimacy to like the culture shock question, because I mean that's one of my bigger gripes with someone like Broxa coming over, and even with Alfari. So I can't imagine. Well, and we've seen it prior with Bang, and a lot of the people that they bring over. I think this is refreshing to, if it's true, that someone that is newly getting acclimated to North American culture spend some time in academy, get more games under the belt, and maybe like a lower risk environment. But it's on TSM with Reggie, so I question that just a little
Okay,
bit.
so to clear up your son, he has played for TSM Academy for the last year. He was on their team for the entirety of 2021, but came straight from the PCS before that and is a Taiwanese national, as far as I can tell.
So moving to somebody who's been over here longer and could give more stability makes a lot of sense from that perspective. The stuff that worries me more is like the follow-up stuff that's come out, mainly what Travis reported with the member of the coaching staff being gone, because the big thing to remember with this is that they didn't have much coaching staff left, who could be the person who is now out the door, because Parth. So going into this season, Parth stepped away from TSM. Bjergsen transitioned back to be a player and joined Team Liquid. So like their coaching staff, or core of their coaching unit from last year, was gone, and they brought in a new head coach to lead this new primarily Mandarin speaking roster to the league. And so like if there's a member of the coaching staff gone already, is it like an analyst? And why would an analyst be gone after week 2, especially when you're making a bigger player shift? Or is it your head coach who you just brought in to run this team who's gone? And then what's happening? Because that's very in my opinion, TSM already should have made a statement about who from their coaching staff is gone, because this is just going to keep exploding until people hear exactly what's happening.
Yeah,
So
especially
like
since it's already out in the open. Like you're kind of like cat's out of the bag. So get that PR statement out fast. You pay those
to
people
take a
for.
step back, right? Like this roster TSM put together was specifically designed to get starting play in NALCS from Taiwan and China, to try and bring in like another import talent pool, rather than going to Korea and the LCK, or from Europe and the ERL leagues or the LEC. It was like, how can we pull in another talent funnel of players from a high quality solo queue environment to play in the LCS? And so they brought over Kieto, who was like a widely respected prospect, and Shenyi, and then they kept Spica and Tactical, Spica in particular, who has the language skills to like coordinate with this team, and then they kept Tooney around, probably because his contract has another year on it. So like they built this roster to be this transition roster, to support like a Mandarin language lineup, and then have a talent funnel. And so now if they're pivoting this early in the season, like it's really hard. Not just from the fact that like, this team obviously will take time to get to work. It's not going to be a strong out the gates team. And then also like your talent pool for pivoting or making changes is very limited. Like they happen to have Yursan available for swapping in at support, so maybe they are still going to be coordinating in Mandarin. But if you have to sub out Kiedo at any point in this, you can't sub in most likely another Mandarin speaking mid laner. You're gonna have to find somebody else, and at that point you're maybe even changing the language your team is shot calling and playing in on the map, and that's crazy. So pivoting this early is really dangerous as far as the stability and like what they were trying to build.
One would just suspect or expect that this team would need time to mesh. This team would need time to get going. Like, I think like a 0-2 2-week situation was not ever out of the realm of possibility. This might have been some kind of like fever dream or something like that, but didn't they on the broadcast last week bring up a Reginald tweet about like, we will never be at like the status that CLG is at? I'll sell my car and house and all that thing. Like, did that just happen on broadcast last
They might have
week?
just pulled it up, but that
Yeah.
has been a thing that Reggie has said.
Yes, they put it on the
Yeah.
thing, so I can't help but wonder if that is affecting the decisions into this week, because they
Also,
are.
on the note about the mid lane sub, Takeover, their academy mid laner is Chilean Korean.
That's a different language than the
Takeover
ones.
is pretty good for the record, but it's
It
going
doesn't fix
back
the
to
language problems.
Yeah.
Nope, it does not. This just smells kind of scuffed when you set out to do something that was risky, and then I would say the other half of the 50% chance of like, it was either going to go really good or kind of like garbage. Like, I don't think there was like a we're doing okay kind of opportunity here. Like, a team like this is gonna take some time to mesh. So I think they could even get away with like a full like C9 like academy and pro or starting team like swap to get those players time to play together. I think that's more valuable, but maybe I'm missing something.
The theoretical problem is the known quantities that you have are Huni Speak and Tactical.
Right.
Like, and the academy, like, albeit the academy team is the one of these two that has actually won a game in anything LCS thus far this season in a 50-minute mess of a game against FlyQuest and lock-in groups. But it's still like Takeover is probably their most interesting prospect. You can't bench Huni for Viper. Like, just in isolation alone, you just can't do it.
Sure, but leaving just Huni on the board to give their core shot calling team that opportunity to work in a lower stakes environment. It's just like, do we lose now to get better? Or are we just trying to pick up some wins to still not be good at the end of the day?
My only criticism of this is that this is like a part of like the the deeper questions around them making this decision in this statement here is how much less stakes is it if you actually have this roster playing in academy than playing in LCS right now, when there's no live audience and they're playing half the games remote anyway. Like does it actually buy this team anything if you're playing them against academy teams instead of LCS teams? And the answer really is no. So like, that's the other part that bothered me, like with this whole thing and moving him to academy, is it's like what are you actually fixing for? Because like, it's not studio audience, it's not like anything that is tied to that. Is it just that like he's like individually Shenyi is really suffering with like NA culture and food and access, and that's cool if that's the issue, and so you just don't want to start him for that. But then that's an isolated one person thing. You can't change the rest of the roster about that. And like it's hopefully okay. Um, the other and like and the other awkward thing is that Reggie has a history of making drastic action with his roster. And the other sad truth is that Shenyi has been the underperformer of the players who he can bench. Because Kiedo, even though he's like had a couple of weaker games, has also had a couple of games where he's destroyed mid lane and looked really good in lane phase, and then the team just doesn't know what to do. So like it could, if there was an overreaction, benching Shenyi is like the overreaction that could happen as far as a roster is concerned here.
This might be
Like,
tangential, but like the investigation is still going on with Reggie, right?
yeah, Reggie is under active investigation from Riot Games still because of allegations from inside the TSM organization that he treats players and staff like trash, and uses emotional abuse to force people to see things his way, which it's the active investigation is clearly led by certain individuals who are no longer with the organization. But the fact that more people left after the allegations were officially published makes it so that it's pretty clear that even if the article has a clear purpose or intent of how to attack Reggie, that it's not like that it's all true, and that it's known truth that he's been doing some stuff that people weren't really comfortable with. Like the other part with that then is like, even if you think back like to like when they announced this plan of importing players from the Chinese and Taiwanese scene to the LCS rather than going to other talent sources in the off season, it's like, and then with the active allegations and everything else, it's like a part of me wonders, just, and this is very conspiracy theory, but like, did they do this because Reggie actually didn't have any more connections that he hadn't burned with other leagues for importing talent? Like, if you were in LEC and Reggie tried to make you an offer and Bjergsen had just left the org, would you accept it to join TSM in this off season? And like, and like most of the talent funnel from LCK, Reggie's already burned those bridges too, because like our big NA talent scouts in LCK have been LS, who joined Cloud9 this offseason, were Loco Doco, who's no longer affiliated with the team or the org, were Reapered, who's now with 100 Thieves, and were like the Monte Cristo Doa crew, who he also alienated.
I would count Core to
Core
some
on
extent.
TL. Yeah, Core's a good one. But it's like these are all people who he's like alienated through other means. And so it's like who can TSM rely on to scout talent in other regions, and also like actually get players to move over to play in NA from. And
Or
it's
even
like,
what organizations will negotiate with them.
yeah, and it seemed like they were actually like having directions that were funneling them towards China, both from TSM greater business understanding, because most of their money market is from the Blitz app and primarily Chinese servers. Um, so his money is also highly tied into China. But then like also as far as like where he could actually still go from a competitive region for talent. And so it's like it's looking pretty rough as
Well,
far
and
as
and
like
it's
what
also
they can
like
still
the thing
do.
to consider about like if you're trying to pivot. Um, we've talked about the nationalities of the academy roster and the critical positions. They didn't buy another like full out like from LPL, LSPL, whatever mid support or other swappable members of their team as necessary. And given the fact that the visa difficulties with getting these two over here meant that they got here with like 2 days to spare for the summer for the spring split, let alone lock in. If you're trying to like buy a couple new ones to add to the fold here. They ain't going to be here until after spring playoffs at the earliest. Like, it is, you can't pivot this and maintain the Mandarin focus easily. And if that's the direction they want to go, like, the entire thing with this roster is it was supposed to be, on its face, a developmental roster. We are 4 games into the season. We are 8 games, 4 of which you only got to play with your main roster, into an entire long year of League of Legends, one in which you didn't go out and sign a big name, well-known, hard carry player from another region. You signed an up-and-coming player from China who clearly has mechanical skill. We've seen that on stage already. We've seen it in solo queue already. And the entire purpose of this roster should have been to grow and build around these 2 young players that you chose to invest in, put all the resources, all the time, all of the effort into getting over to North America to build a team that could shot call in their native language with a jungler who's like the only person who can do this that's playing professionally in North America right now. You put in all of this work and you're going to blow it up in 4 games. That is pathetic. It's embarrassing and it's pathetic. And swapping it out for the reasons they said and for the reasons we outlined at the start of this discussion, it could be an okay move to let the support swap happen. If you are just doing this to change something up because you're 0-4 and see yourself sitting at the bottom of the league, that is pathetic and a waste of time.
Especially when you bring in the head or coaching member being severed as well. Like it smells like there's enough smoke here to make those statements 100%. And given the history of this team, given the history of who makes the calls, I think it's very likely. And I North America in general has like a risk avert way of like coming up with these grand ideas to really shake up what their team brand and team what they're going to do, and then not committing to it all the way, especially when things get a little bit dicey, which, as you emphasized, isn't really even that dicey, just with 2 weeks of a very, very long year under your belt. So it's big question marks regardless.
And it's the thing that is going to be hard for people to process, for fans to process, for ownership to process, is
stakeholders.
In things other than lock-in, what's the lowest TSM has ever finished?
6th?
5th or 6th. This roster was not supposed to make playoffs. It would have been a surprise if this team made playoffs. And if the expectation internally was anything other than that, they're a bunch of idiots.
Coming out hot. I love it.
Look, we've been consistent about what we thought this team was going to be, I'm pretty sure, on this podcast.
Yeah, I think everyone. I think that's why it's the buzz.
Their goal should have been to make playoffs for summer.
Yes.
Period.
Get the experience down now. Like, honestly, this should be more of a building up your like support staff at this time, but it seems that's not even the case.
Like, and it's there are some who would say, myself included, that they have been spoiled by having the players in the organization that they've managed to have over the entire course of their history, mostly Bjergsen. Well, this is what's next. This is what actually rebuilding looks like. And look to see if you can handle it.
And look at teams that have done it, like FlyQuest or Golden Guardians, Dignitas. They didn't look good. and sometimes they still don't look good. And this is what it looks like. But you have like 100 Thieves that won.
But look around the rest of the league. Look around at the other bad teams in NA. The only one that looks on this level is Immortals, and they've won a game. Even CLG, who have been the joke of the fucking league for years, are 0-4, right next to TSM in the standings, but have actually shown direction and potential and look like they're building something around the young players that they chose to invest in this year. Whose shoes would you rather be in right now?
As a player? CLG. Which
is
shocking.
Org.
Yeah.
As a fan.
Well, fan allegiance is hard to pin down in League of Legends, in my
You're
opinion.
right, but like, if
this is why.
If you were a neutral trying to pick a team based on how these teams looked, and you had to pick one of the bottom four, so you're looking at Immortals, Golden Guardians, TSM, CLG, right? That's the bottom four right now. The records might say other things, but I'm saying those are the bottom four.
You're coming in fresh. It's either going to be Guardians or CLG right now from those four teams.
Yep.
Because like
that's what I'm saying.
Immortals has like legacy value because you've got PoE and Wild Turtle and Xerxes for people like me. But like other than that, it's like you're either going for the team who has assassin junglers, or you're going for the team which is like all in on the Luger train.
So I just I don't trust this organization to do this right. And if they do it wrong, there's a long, long road to follow here.
And this is like, Riot hasn't shown any punishment for behavior like this that I can really summon up right away. So
which behavior? You like benching players after 2 weeks, like owner management? Because no,
just like overall, like really not building for longevity. A big thing that came with franchising was like, if you're gonna get this slot, you're going to showcase why we're letting you invest more or less. So like, there was that original clause that always was chasing CLG, was like, if you're finishing bottom of the barrel and you're not showing us how you're going to improve as far as like being an equitable like part of this puzzle, you're at risk. I don't see how TSM is building to be an equitable part of the puzzle if they're not willing to go in on their plans and not have a coaching staff and not have any of these things.
So the good news for TSM on that front is they've got at least another year of floundering before that starts to matter. But it does kind of remind me of where CLG was when Hotshot was starting to having to let his hands off the reins of the CLG org, of like, is this the time when they really need to add a better buffer layer between players and management there, and separating business concerns, and then potentially isolating that team more? Because like when CLG really fell apart was in a similar space where like all their hyper power players left. So they survived Doublelift leaving, but then like after Afromu and Xsmithy left, they really started to struggle, and the org combusted internally pretty quickly after that. There were problems even before that happened, but it's like after the legacy players were gone is when it really fell apart. And so I'm wondering if this is like TSM is just at a very similar point as far as like where the roster is at, as well as like where the support for the roster is at and direction. And so like if we're expecting a similar trajectory, that means that we're expecting another 4 years of mediocre TSM as they get that straightened out. Because like the business side management part of it is not fast, like, and especially for like these player owners who are used to like
Winging
back
it.
in my day, we played and coached and were our own managers, and we could just pick a guy like Medios up out of normals and then put him on stage and then win 3 splits. And so why can't my supposed superstar mid lane import carry us through these games? Isn't he supposed to just be another Bjergsen? And it's like it's really hard sometimes to like get that, to actually have the huge mentality shift of like it's not that fast anymore, and that you do have to think longer term, like Steven was talking about, for not just like invest, but like understanding that it's about investment, and that players can fail in your success patterns, and it's more like a stock portfolio than it is like flipping coins or whatever it
So
is.
to pivot our conversation a little bit, because I do want to talk about this, the the place where maybe ownership should now be starting to scout is in Champions Queue, which has now existed and been a thing for about a week and a half, if my brain is right.
If that.
Um, if that, because I think it had like almost just launched when we recorded last week and we didn't have time to talk about it. So, if you're not up on how Champions Queue in NA is working, it is a separate server. In North America, the server itself is based in Los Angeles, so it is of particular low ping access to all of the LCS teams that are based in Los Angeles and many other players that are in that area, presumably all of the academy players as well. And access to the queue is limited, I believe, to Grandmaster and Challenger solo queue only.
You have
It's
to be
high.
invited. So it's invite only, and they're targeting those 2 levels. They started by inviting every active player in LCS, Academy,
Amateur,
Amateur, and the
LLA.
LLA. And so they started with those players, and it's invite only to grow from there. So you have to get
So, like,
asked to join.
for example, there's a Twitter bot that tweets out updates of when there's a stream of a given game. So there's a game going right now that has Lorlo, who is currently teamless, Jungler from a Latin America team, Triple from CLG Academy, Johnson and Diamond from FlyQuest LCS. On the other team, top laner from Isurus in LLA, jungler from Immortals Academy, Palafox from CLG main, Tactical from TSM main, and Slow from Rainbow Seven in LLA. Just as an example of a game, like that's the teams that are out there. It's, from what I've seen, it's not like people are changing their names. It's, you can see exactly whose accounts people are on, and it's there's a what it appears to be is there's like a custom matchmaking bot thing, that these are all functionally custom games that have to get filled up and put together right. And like if you watch a lobby form, that's what it looks like, a custom game instead of just like you queue for it. But it's led to already theoretically a lot higher level gameplay in solo queue, and it's as far as a talent scouting opportunity, it's a chance for the academy, amateur, and for the LLA players to get to play against the highest level people, in addition to whatever people get in from solo queue alone that aren't already on this list of people that are in. When that happens, like, this is that opportunity to perform at the highest level against the highest level of people in North America.
Not to detract from that point, because I think this is like super valuable, and I want to see it evolve and grow. To me, it's not a talent problem. It is like how many players you can throw into the meat grinder of this organization and not address the problems that are probably more at the core. What does this coaching staff look like? What does the support staff look like? What does the financial management look like? Like what are these contracts like? Why are these players not performing? because I mean, like these were unknown elements as far as the players that they signed, and yes, they were going with a tactic, but they haven't even let that tactic produce anything. Like they planted him in the ground, watered him a couple times, and like nope, dug him up. And we are assuming just a little bit that that's happening, as far as like they did give a legitimate statement that isn't relevant to any kind of like historical problems. He might very well just be having issues adjusting to North America. That is very, very possible. But at the same time, when are we going to start addressing, as TSM, the organization, these problems that have, like, even back in 2020, you had the Dardoch Lena stuff going on. Like, there is not enough of a buffer between the players' lives and the business side of it, and that's where I'm kind of sitting pretty squarely, is like, get your ducks in a row.
Anyway, let's be done with this chain of thought, because I'm tired of talking about it. Eric, do you have any thoughts on how you've seen Champions Queue stuff come out in the first week of its existence?
So most of the players I've seen in Champions Queue have been like high activity, and so far have been saying have been pretty controlled in how they're addressing commentary in game. Like one of the things I really want to be on the lookout for when I'm watching games of Champions Queue on streams is like, are players complaining about their teammates or the enemy team's decision making in like an active way? Because like there are 2 points to Champions Queue. One is low ping, the other one of which is that the NA ladder is full of one tricks and trolls, and I don't want to have to deal with them in my like high competitive environment. And so that's like the second reason. So if like people start to complain about the players they're match made with in Champions Queue, that's a problem, and that's a sign that this isn't doing what it's supposed to do. I think you just shared the leaderboard, which is really cool. The people who are high up on the leaderboard are people who should be high up on the leaderboard, which is good. But it's like it's really interesting overall what it represents, because like you definitely see like JoJo rising to the top. Kumo's always been high on leaderboards. But then like one thing to call out though is that like some of the real star players haven't put in that much time in Champions Queue yet.
It's the games played is notable, and that's a thing that people have complained about. This is from a Reddit post yesterday where people noted that JoJo is top of this ladder right now. But it's, if you look at the top 7 or 8 on this list, they all have at least 50 games played. And games played is a pretty high range of like what the gains are from this. The site given here, that is what we're looking at here, also has win rate and number of games played, as opposed to just the raw LP. Because like JoJo currently is 100 LP up on number 2 and has a 69% win rate basically, which is the highest of anybody in the queue, which is pretty nuts. But you scroll down, you get down past the top 10, there's only a couple people who have played more than 50 games down this low. A lot of people with 40, a lot of people in the 30s. And it includes a lot of the pro players that haven't dug in as much, as opposed to like the academy and amateur scene players and the LLA players that are doing more. Like you have a player from UC Irvine who's in the top 6, who's probably not a known name to a lot of people, and you have Smoothie and RJS, who I believe both are teamless right now, but are obviously previous LCS players with experience there. So it's going to be interesting to watch it develop. Steven, what are your thoughts about it?
I think like you run into this critical point, is like you have to get people to opt into it, like getting people to see the value and starting to play at a rate that is more appropriate. But at the same time, with what you mentioned as far as like there are some people that are teamless, there are people in the academy team, they're going to want to put more time into like a system like this because this is where they're going to get exposure. This is where they're going to get better at the game. And I think that's just kind of like a natural at the early stage here is that like, yeah, Jojo Pyun knows that like his stardom comes from being like a talent and really having things to back that up. So him running in a whole bunch of games right at the beginning here and looking really good, that's on brand for him. And people that are teamless that want to get back into the game, they're going to show up and do the grind to get back on a team. They want to show that they're hungry, that they're a part of it. So I don't see it as a gripe like, oh yeah, like it's kind of skewed when you play a lot of games. Well, it's going to benefit people more that need that help to play the game more. Like
from a gamification perspective and like design, it's actually good that the players on the fringe are like kind of overshooting our investment of like the true stars in some ways, because like the whole purpose of this queue really is for making sure that if any of the starting big name stars wants to get in a game of solo queue, they can load up instantly and have a high quality gameplay experience. Or like maybe not instantly, but faster than the 13 to 15 minute time that solo queue was forming. So this is actually giving them a clear window of the day when they have players available and they can hop straight into lobbies. And that's huge. So like it's actually good that you see RJS and Lurlo and these others putting in high numbers because of what it provides for the actual starting talent. On the flip side, LP is a terrible fucking metric, especially in this case, because the whole point of LP as well as ladder systems isn't actually to showcase talent and actually like do comparative analysis. It's to actually give you a metric for hours investment. Because like the whole point of these ladder mechanics is so that you can go up in ladder rankings in the game. Like when you go from bronze 2 to bronze 1 and eventually to silver 4, that's a huge endorphin rush which hits you right up here and then makes you feel really good about life. And that's what that's about. And LP is a continuation of that, where it's just giving you a number level that is more a factor of time invested than it actually is of comparative talent. If they wanted to have the leaderboard for Champions Queue be an actual comparative metric, they should be using MMR or they should be using ELO or some kind of actual algorithm that does comparative number balancing there. That's actually what should have been there from the beginning, because ELO and MMR do exist in the client under the hood of what's happening. It's just that they're not broadcasting it openly to users. So like that would have been a better metric for them to put here if you really want to know who's a better player in this solo queue environment.
like I'm always for advocating for ELO in this kind of situation, and I think it would really benefit the players union to push for it and like get Riot to develop it. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but there is intrinsic value for getting good quality players to play a lot of the game and giving the people that are okay, so like Bjergsen, Core, and Wild Turtle only have like 5 games played. Let's hypothetically say that. When they show up and when they want to put in that time, they will have good quality experience and good quality gameplay. The people that are in academy and they want to just grind, I need to get better and do this, they have the opportunity to do that and not necessarily just get like completely tanked to where, oh, my ELO's dropping, my MMR's not looking good. There's a measurable way that teams are going to look at me if I fall below X like amount. So I think there's some pros and cons to having the LP system and the ELO system, but I personally prefer an ELO system. But I would hate to see people's careers be so defined by that specific number, given how it's been going thus far. I really like the, hey, we see your raw talent. We see that you put in the hours and we're very interested. We've seen a lot of your gameplay. We want to bring you on and sign you on, or let you start for us this week or something like that, because you've just been really showing it. So I guess that's more of a human element to it, that maybe a healy-feely hippie, but you know.
So speaking of the human element or the happy feely stuff, Steven, did you see the big TL news that came out this week?
Yes, the boy's got his green card. He is in. Welcome,
Yeah.
comrade. Because that's like full citizenship. Because his wife is over too, right? So I'm guessing that comes with a lot of perks as well for that his family, which is awesome to see. And I just really hope that the team looks good with a change up. Like, on paper, yes, you're upgrading your support, but meshing is always a question mark. But like I really hope that like this is like a really super powerhouse team now. Like the last leg of Exodia has been assembled into the hand, and we just win the game and go hard, and we don't drop a single anything, just clean. I really hope that happens.
Yeah. So how have you felt about TL in like these first couple of weeks, Steven?
As a try-hard fanboy, they're the best around. No one can touch them. Like, easy championship right here. They're gonna win the split, no problem. Going to Worlds hardcore. The little bit of a armchair coach. Some of the stuff is a little sloppy. I think I haven't listened to comms. I don't know if there's been any comms leaked yet, but I feel like we kind of let Bwipo do whatever sometimes, and they win still, but at the same time it's like, do we have to rely on Bwipo doing the widest things to win the game? I don't think so. I'm used to more of a technically like by the book prowess that Team Liquid tends to offer historically, but just like letting the widest boy go down a lane and split push and draw so much pressure that it doesn't really matter what the rest of the team is doing is quite new to me. But that might be the state of the meta.
So the top farmers in the league, in the LCS so far, there's Danny, Johnson, Hansama, Neo, 4 ADCs, and then there's Bwipo at 9.9 CS per minute. So when we talk about letting the wide boy go down lane, he's actually getting an astronomical gold share in this team, as well as just in the league as an entirety. Like the amount of gold that Bwipo accrues is like vastly out of proportion for his role, which is why I second picked him overall in our fantasy league, because my approach to fantasy is always picking like statistic outlier players for roles, since we're only playing one player per role in this sleeper league. And it's like Bwipo is the highest diff top laner as far as like gold share, as well as solo kill participation from preseason and lock-in. So it's like this was a very clear strategy I had going into this split, is putting my eggs
Animal.
on the Bwipo basket to make sure this would work. But yeah, they've looked incredible. So let's see who has. So Bwipo's gotten to play a wide variety of champions so far. I'm pretty sure he had a Jace game this week and a Gragas game,
Yes.
if I'm remembering correctly. So he's had Jace, he's had Gragas, he's had Gwen. He hasn't pulled out the Pantheon yet
Or Tryndamere
in the regular season. So I'm excited to see what like they get to do going into this week.
I kind of want to interject. Do you have something that you're going to? Because I'm actually a little bit salty.
No.
Okay. I want to talk about the Karma Top game that we got spicy about in the Discord, because I'm really upsetty spaghetti. I think you're doing some false equivalencies, and I want to stand trial on that exact statement that was said, if I can present to the court.
All right, let me remember which game this was.
I believe it was
this
Dig EG.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it was definitely an EG.
Yes, it
Let
was
me pull
Dig
it up.
EG because I did like Dig Hype Trade, and there's the bus memes with no gas and those kind of things. So to set the
Yeah.
Clap,
stage,
boy.
no, this is God. Okay, so I got a little hyphy in the Discord to set the what happened. I was riding the Dig train pretty hard, and after the pseudo base race backdoor stop the back situations, I get added in the chat, like clapped, and it's all about the karma. And apparently they were talking about it on the desk and stuff. It's just like, oh man, karma's just like the reason they won this game. And it's just like easy mode, like smite roaming top is just like like too powerful. Even though they still had the Jinx and I believe the Corki on that same team. And I think that's more of the problem because I believe Jinx and Corki won every single match that weekend, correct? And saying
sure.
clapped because of the Janna is
so-
garbage, is a bad take.
So when we're saying my counterpoint to like to like Steven's like, oh, but it was because they had a fed Jinx. Of course they have a fed Jinx. They have a second support in bot lane for the Jinx the entire game. Like
That was running it down.
Impact ran it down several times, and they still hard won every team fight in this game because they had two supports and a hyper carry.
Also,
I
Jinx
think
went 5-4 this weekend.
this
Big
weekend.
clown.
Oh, really? Like worldwide, like
LCS.
or LCS? Oh,
Really?
5-4.
Wow.
No.
Dang.
And it's not propagating properly. Refresh that.
The Jinx looks good when
Yes.
you can get the first kill.
It
and
turns
when
out
you
when the bad teams pick Jinx too.
yeah.
But
It might surprise you to learn that the 4 players that lost on Jinx were Wild Turtle, Johnson, Tactical, and Luger.
And Luger looks good on Jinx.
Yep.
So like, yeah. It's so like it's not strong enough to like solo carry games, but it turns out when you give it a pocket support and you're just like funneling gold at it, and then it doesn't matter how far you're behind, you still win. Because that's the other part that's like baffling with this game is like they get down 4K gold, 4K, like almost 5, and then they still just win every fight, like starting at like 25, 26 minutes. How is that like allowed or acceptable?
If I may return to an earlier point, if you think Jinx can solo a game, if you think Jinx with 2 supports can solo carry a game, let me introduce you to TSM against Golden Guardians, Steven. Tactical was up 200 CS, was 8-6-8, and his team fucking lost.
To what? What did they lose to?
Which game was that?
It was the
tragic
when
TSM
Pride
game.
Stalker was massive on Jungle Zed.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
There was no.
But I thought Jinx could 1v9. I thought Jinx with 6 items could 1v9, sir.
Yeah.
That's a 6-item Jinx with no boots, sir.
Yeah. Well, it didn't come down to a base race with like 3 autos on the Nexus and the backs being stopped. Garbage. It's not a clap. Can we define clap, please?
Got clapped.
No, it's not. I want this term defined for the books so we can get this down on the ruling.
Can I present my counter argument,
I'll allow
sir?
it. I'll allow it.
This man is mad because he played Impact in Fantasy and got 6 points from this game because Impact played from the top.
So upsetting.
That's the only reason he's mad. I rest my case.
I might be a little bit upsetty about that.
So how is fantasy going? I'm 2-0, looking good, having great times. Even though my support was just benched and his backup from academy is going to be playing this week, I'm still feeling pretty confident going into this week of games.
I am 0-2.
Yeah, you're in the toilet bowl part of it.
I sure am. EG's bot lane hasn't been good enough, unfortunately, to carry the rest of my team.
Oh man,
I keep missing on Pride Stalker's good games.
okay, so I'm gonna
Like,
go
Pride,
with.
Pride Stalker really tried to help this weekend, and it just didn't go off.
I'm gonna go down just the list going off of people's users' names. So at the top of the league is fan of the channel Grizzledurf with a 671.26. He is 2-0. And then we have this dude named Shreds with 619.9, who is also 2-0. And then Zaitun, who is at 46923. So big jump. And Sleeper just decided to reset on me. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I was on a roll there too. Okay. Zaitun with a 46923. 2-0. And then me with a 556.64. So I got ripped off, and this is garbage. Probably specifically from a specific game that I might be salty about. And then we go into Steel Song, who's at 493.4 with 1-1. Aided Seeker with a 421.18, 1-1. Dandy Savage 412. Prof Cedar 451. So you're actually kind of getting scuffed there of being in the 1-1 club. And then Kyle Rayner at 436 at 02, and then Love Wolf with a 391 at a 02. So
well, and to be fair, that's points 4. The bottom 3 of us all have played against over 600 points total,
right.
which is part of the problem. And I will note that our fearless leader Grizzledurf has played against a whopping 350 total. So he's been coasting a little bit, where Eric has beaten almost 500 points worth of people for his 2-0. So I trust Eric's team a little bit more in the long run based on that. And I have a little bit of faith in mind that I'm going to get a dub down there. But it's been pretty tragic to this point. I do note that our two of our 3-2-0 teams are playing each other this weekend.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's see if we can get that figured out, because the
Yeah.
the Grizzledurf Shreds Bowl is this weekend.
Oh, it's hyphy.
So C9's my trump card this weekend. Berserker's gonna like hard pop off because they're gonna go back to mid Ivern and mid Soraka and just farm me points because he gets nothing out of those games, and that's my trump card for this week.
I hope we put Bwippo on Janna just to ruin everything.
To ruin my points. See,
So-
that's what you think, but I'll get big points
While
because
we're-
I'm
while
gonna
we're-
pick Janna for Bwippo, and you're gonna watch it happen.
Well, while we're talking individual teams real quick, I wanted to ask Eric his thoughts on his team this weekend, because they had a real upsy-downsy of a weekend here. Because y'all went and lost to Immortals and then beat EG comfortably. What are y'all doing?
It really does feel like sometimes the team, if they don't have a good early start, they fall apart a bit, and that Immortals game was pretty tragic. Like and because like most of their losses, including the like getting 2-0'd by Dig, were tragic games, and so I assume that's like that's like a continual flaw of this team that you just have to love and accept, is that sometimes they just fall apart. You know, there's like a banana peel on the rift by a scuttle crab somewhere, and then Closer like trips, and then he is like busy laughing at him in bot lane, and then fail flashes, and then they die in a 2v2. And like, you know, you just have to accept it and live with that fact. But like when they look good, they look so good.
Because that, like, in the EG game, they were totally dominant in the solo lanes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the heist theme. It's like sometimes the heist goes off without a hitch, and then someone just like really steps on the laser trip alarms and completely botched the whole gig. Like, it's really funny to me.
Yeah, Abba definitely has like hit and miss mid lane games too. Like, and so like teams maybe ganking him would be a way to shut the team down. That they could look for.
Yeah, because I think it's really because you didn't pick up one of their NFTs that they were giving out.
Yeah, and like that's the thing about like the EG perspective on this weekend is like EG got a big win over Dig, which was awesome. Even if it was playing some top karma cheese, it's good to see they've got that in the pocket if they need it.
That's not why they
But
won.
then got slapped by 100T, which like is I don't actually know how mad I can even be about that. Like that's 100T is really good. They won the split last split.
With the same team.
Yeah, like I can't even be that mad. And Abba gave JoJo a little clap down, which I think was probably good for him in the long run. So then in terms of the actual games on the Rift this weekend, we have the classic me and Steven Bowl, which of course comes in Core's triumphant return
Excellent.
on Saturday.
I don't have core though, so it's big sad.
And then we have Cloud9. I want to see how much Cloud9 are going to give it to TSM. That's going to be fun.
I'm really excited. I believe for the other TSM game this week. Or
IMT.
sorry, so wait. When's the IMT Liquid game? Did that already happen and I forgot about it?
Yes, that was like one of the first games. I think that was the first game that we lost that. IMT Liquid?
It was second game first week.
Yeah, we clapped them.
Oh, okay. Darn. Yeah, I remember being super disappointed by that game. I really wanted it. I really hope that IMT figures stuff out for a second round robin, because I think that IMT has like the secret sauce to beat Team Liquid.
Or they've quirked up white boy. I should be concerned about.
Twisted Fate is the trick, which is losing globally, by the way. Teams aren't winning by first picking Twisted Fate.
No.
However, IMT can first pick Twisted Fate specifically into TL, because Santorn and Bjergsen will see that Xerxes has that, and they will absolutely tilt off the Rift. Like that to me is like prime second round robin material. If they lock the jungle TF in on Xerxes.
Here's the thing: you want to talk about tilt? I forgot about this game. Let's just read this TL team comp to you right quick. I'm only going to read you two things. They had Zillion and Tryndamere on the same team.
It was gross. It was very gross.
Bwipo did play Tryndamere. I forgot. Okay.
Yeah. Bjerg played the big Zilly. So then the Tryndamere gets to live 3 different times.
Did he get a GA in there?
4. He gets a GA, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he bought Hullbreaker that game. Did he buy Hullbreaker that game?
I think so. I think he was just the
trying
whitest
to make
boy.
Happen.
No.
That's one of my other favorite things with Champions Queue, by the way, is that everyone in top lane buys Hullbreaker in Champions Queue.
And then, I can talk about Hullbreaker. That was a controversial point in LCK last night.
Yeah.
So that's like the EGTL is the highlight match of the weekend, like pretty inarguably. There's some weak sauce, kind of the rest of the weekend's kind of weak sauce, if I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of top team against bottom team business. Like 100T has FlyQuest Golden Guardians. Like you should win both of those.
Let's say it in a more uplifting way.
C9 has the bottom 2 teams in the league.
There's plenty of potential for upsets this weekend.
There are.
Who knows who's going to lose to Immortals this week?
If Immortals lose the TSM, this TSM, that's going to be really funny and bad for me. That's all I'm saying. It'd be funnier if it's C9, but
that would be hilarious. As much as I test TSM, like Cloud9 is way above them my dislike list.
Before we are done, let's talk a little. We're not going to do LAC this week. We don't have time to deal with it. Let's talk a little bit of LPL and LCK, because I know Eric and I have both been watching games from each of those respective regions. Eric, what was your LPL series you wanted to highlight that you watched this week?
Oh man,
I believe
I'm actually gonna go.
What are you gonna go?
I think I've got to go the LNG BLG series.
Say Wabo EDG. Coward.
Oh, Wabo EDG was also great. but it was man.
LNG BLG was much more fun. I haven't watched the Waibo series yet.
So it's like the Waibo EDG series David's referring to. They decide to just give up Jinx 2 games in a row to Steven's point about Jinx being strong. but they give up like Jinx, Lee Sin, and then they like they first pick the TF, and then they like get like, and then it's like they give up Jinx, Ryze, Lee Sin, 2 games in a row, and like Scout gets destroyed in mid lane, and then Viper's playing Ezreal. It's an Ezreal Karma bot lane, and like the Ezreal Karma bot lane is up 20 to 25 CS consistently in lane, has multiple plates taken, and the rest of their map is absolutely getting crushed 2 games in a row by SOFM nonsense. And like the Shy is also like in prime form right now. This is a great time to watch the Shy if you're looking for like that like pure ARAM energy. In game 1, the Shy leaves top lane to invade JJ as he's taking his blue buff level 1. Proceeds to hang out in the jungle,
No.
auto-attacking JJ as Gwen for a minute. A solid minute of gameplay. Like, Flandre has to abandon top lane to allow his jungler to take Gromp level 1. Because he
I'd be
can't
so
take the
tilted.
blue
Oh my
buff with
God.
Gwen there. The Shy then walks his way back to top lane and gets a level lead on Flandre and then all-ins level 2 and forces him back and teleporting. And it's like, this whole thing is happening as SOFM is full clearing his jungle. And it's like, it's the most disgusting stuff. That's like the most disrespectful gameplay imaginable. And that's peak the Shy right there. They look great. And the Ezreal pick wins lane, and Viper does absurd damage, but it doesn't matter. It's great. That's a fun set to watch if you want to watch more of the Shy in your life. So I will go with that set.
Or if you want to watch a jungler's soul slowly die. Because I was watching Steven's face while you're telling him about this level 1, and oh boy, I watched a little bit of his soul drip out of his ears.
Oh my God, I have PTSD. I just like the solo queue clown fiesta, like the Ivern top laners coming around with smite and just like auto attacking and making bushes. It's like, please leave me alone. Go away.
So then LNGBLG, which was the other really fun one. I think I said this like 3 weeks ago before the Lunar New Year break. I don't know if LNG are that good, but they're still undefeated in series.
They can absolutely throw games, but they have not lost a series yet.
Because they've won a lot of 2-1s. This was another game series. They won 2-1. They were down in game 3 of this series, and it didn't matter.
You know who this LNG remind me of, David? They remind me of CLG when CLG got to like the semis in MSI. That's what this team reminds me of. Because it's like pure faith age, power of friendship BS.
You just compared Doobie to Huhi.
Yeah, I did. They're very similar.
They're very
it turns
similar
out.
players. That's actually true.
It's like, and it's pure power of friendship BS. Where it's like, oh crap, we're diving bot lane, and I see that Lumao has like fail flashed and is like getting hard engaged on, but we're not gonna like accept defeat. No, we're gonna like all in on this defeat. Let's all die bot lane. We can't like let him like be wrong. We have to all be there with him. He cracks one open and they all teleport in and they all die. It's
yes,
like, how
excellent.
do you, it's pure power of friendship, faith age nonsense. That's what this team is, and I guess that means they're gonna win MSI. But
understand that in this series, this is Doinby. Doinby's a global player. This is what Doinby does. You know what Doinby's 3 different picks in this series were? TF, Ryze, Galio.
It tracks.
I'm going to come love you, bot lane. So the Korean notes I wanted to give is that the LCK is currently dealing with a little bit of a COVID outbreak, and it's made some stuff really unfortunate for how stuff is going. And that I hyped up the T1 Gen G series a bit ago, and that's before Gen G had 2 players test positive for COVID, which meant they couldn't play, including Peanut, and they kind of just got bopped 2-0, and it wasn't very interesting. And they are not the worst case in the league. So I want to tell you guys the sad story of Nongshim Red Force, who I have some fondness for and who had a really great start to the season. I mentioned like 3 weeks ago them beating Dom1 in a best of 3 was really dope. Like Ghost getting one over on his old team was awesome. So their problems have come. I think they were where this kind of like localized outbreak started. The first case they announced was that let's see, who was it? It was Ghost himself tested positive for COVID on February 7th. And then they retested through the team. BDD, starting mid laner, Peter, starting support, and one of their coaches all tested positive on the 8th. So now you have your entire bottom side of the map just gone. This is over their Lunar New Year break. Effort, their backup support, tests positive for COVID on the 9th. So they're down 2 supports now, both of their main roster supports. On the 11th, they played a match with that entire bottom side gone, lost 1-2. On the 12th, their top laner Kana tests positive for COVID. So now they are missing 4 of their 5 players, and their jungler, Dread, is the only one who is left of the starting 5. So they have now played in different series. They've played their academy ADC, mid laner, top laner. Their academy support got 1 game. Ghost came back from his COVID break and role swapped to support. So has been playing support because he's apparently a better option than their 3rd choice support. And they played oh boy, who's the terrible team at the bottom of the league? They played Kwangdong Freaks, their second to last best of 5, who have been awful all year. But the one thing Kwangdong Freaks is good at is Kwangdong Freaks have Fate and Keen, who are both really good solo laners. And they played their academy solo laners. Their mid laner is unfortunately appropriately named Fiesta. And just got absolutely destroyed in lane. Their top laner, whose name is Jundun, got in game 2 of this series. He played the worst top Gragas game I've ever seen in my life. Like it was just embarrassing the amount of stuff he missed. Like Kwangdong Freaks has been one of the worst teams in the league the entire year. Nongshim got completely outclassed playing 3 backup players and 1 role swap. So then in last night's series, they mix it up even further. They bring in their academy jungler. They role swap Dread to top lane. They get BDD back, so they have their starting mid laner back. But now you're playing your jungler top lane, your ADC and support, and playing academy players in AD and jungle.
Yikes! But at least they haven't had to forfeit a game.
And they played Genji, who even with a backup top laner still whopped him.
Like, at what point do you just call it like, hey, this game's not happening?
Well, but it's like they've been able to make all the emergency subs from their Challengers League team, but it's just like they were legitimately they started the season, they lost to HLE started the season, but then won their next 3 best of 3s, are 3-1, and now have lost every game since. 4 of those with people in COVID protocols. And have dropped all the way down, I think, to tied for 7th in the standings after the first round robin. And top 5 make playoffs in Korea. Like there is a chance that they do not actually recover enough games to make playoffs after probably being a playoff team.
And this split is super important for Worlds contention, correct?
I forget how Korea's points system works, but like they just because of how bad this has gone for them lately, they might be completely screwed for at least spring. So it's one of those like, don't take any of these games for any of these teams for granted yet, because it's kind of the same thing to assume like, how did the Genji players infect the Nongshim players because of how close they. If one of these things hits the LCS or the LEC with players back in studios, I know the LEC went back to studios this week. or is going back this week. But it's just like this can completely fuck a team just immediately. And the splits are short enough with 18 games in the LCS and LAC that like we're seeing it with TSM choosing to make subs. But like if you're forced to sub out 3 of your players for an academy roster because they can't go to the stage, it's just not gonna go well because the standard is not the same. Like that was the entire thing watching these last couple of Nongshim series is like they're playing they played not very good teams and just got completely outclassed. And that's the problem is the replacements are good, it's not the same and it won't be.
No, and team synergy is so important. Power of friendship, like, come on.
So just one of those things to consider in this year of month 23 of this bullshit. Like everything still sucks until it doesn't.
An amount of time has passed.
Yeah, like it's gonna be in a month. It will be 2 years since I had to cancel half of my spring break because of the beginning of all of this.
The beginning.
Anyway, that's a positive note to end on. Steven, what you been playing?
I almost beat Arceus. I did the 5th Noble boss, which was awesome. I actually really like that fight. No spoilers, but it's really, really cool. It's definitely Dark Souls. It's probably harder than Dark Souls.
Which fight?
The Avalug.
Oh, you're just garbage like everyone else.
I restarted it. I didn't use the checkpoint system because I'm not a coward.
Yeah, I restarted it once.
I did it a lot.
I really don't understand Jill's problem with it.
Timing, boomer hands. I don't know. I can reach into my bag of excuses that I have right here. Let's just look. I'm bad at the game. I like several times like I went to yeet out a Pokemon and it just like went into the ether and never triggered, and so I missed that whole rotation of doing the combat. It was awful. It was really bad. You can see that in the playthrough. There it is.
Yeah, like
you're muted.
I don't know. Like
I really like watching
about
Steven's.
Of that fight. I apparently am better at it than everybody else who's on our Arceus channel because they've all complained about it.
I really like watching Steven do this playthrough, partially because like his moments of childlike joy when he finally like unearths parts of like the UI or like the core gameplay experiences after like 40 minutes of video content is like peak return to childhood and playing like games on Super Nintendo for the first time. It's like a similar kind of thing.
You're saying he has a brain of a 6-year-old, right?
Essentially.
Just to get that on record.
Yeah, that's probably about what I have left in the brain tank. It's about 6 years.
You got about 2 years until your sons are better at video games than you.
It's really bad. It's really bad, actually. They have time and youth while I'm just on the edge. Yeah, my son was like, I'm a gamer boy. I was like, I used to be a gamer boy. He's like, you don't even play video games. I'm like, oh, no.
I'm glad my son can't talk yet. That's going to be bad for me.
It's really awful. Stall it as long as you can. Sandbag
my
his
son
edge.
got to make a guest appearance on this podcast for a little bit because he was screeching while I was trying to make a point. Plus it's hard.
He just wants to be involved, man.
Anyway, I too have been playing the Pokemon Legends Arceus. I am 1 or 2 Pokemon away from completely done with my Pokédex, and therefore the main body of the game. And
nerd.
Look, man. All I play these games for is to complete the decks, and this game caters to that in so many different ways. Like I have deeply enjoyed it. I rolled credits on Sunday before I had the flu for 2 days, so that was nice. Or no, on Tuesday after I'd had the flu, which was better. But I've been really satisfied with how stuff has turned out. My party is pretty fun. That I finally settled on to beat the end of the game with, and there's some end game fights that I don't think either of these two have gotten to yet that are juicy, and I'm looking forward to chatting with them about them when they eventually get there, because I think I'm the only one who's there. Because I'm farther than another of our friends who had previously caught me at this point.
Yeah, I
So
believe
yeah,
both my
there's
brothers
some
are
juicy
completely
content
done.
there, but you'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Eric, what you been playing?
I've been playing Scion with Hullbreaker and Arv because I'm a bad person.
That's not nice.
Oh yeah, the controversy in builds. Is Jace with Hullbreaker good or bad?
Evil. Cruel.
It's like it's acknowledging that your job is to be in a side lane, but it also is kind of like a confession, you know. Me buying Hullbreaker as Jace is a confession that I can't actually hit shock blasts. So
Yep.
rather than me trying to show up and fight at this dragon and missing all my skill shots, I'll just be over here. Let me do my thing.
And when it works really well. And when it doesn't work very well. So this was in the Fred at Brion Live Sandbox series last night. Games 2 and 3, Live Sandbox's top laner Dove picks Jace, first buys Hullbreaker both games. In the second game, he was a complete useless bot whose shock blast did no damage and they lost very heavily. In the third game, he 1v2'd their mid laner and top laner at like 20 minutes because Hullbreaker, and then they won comfortably. In both of these games, by the way, he never built a mythic item. He went Hullbreaker into boy, it was I'm finding the build
I'm
because
guessing some
it was
kind of
something
pen
hilarious.
item.
Well, because that was the problem in game 2. He didn't do any damage. Like yeah, it's Hullbreaker into the slowy one.
Cyrilda's Grudge.
Yeah, it was Hullbreaker, Cyrilda's Muramana was the build, and just never actually built a mythic.
I mean, if you're not fighting anyone.
Well, yeah, like it's
beating
great
the
for the
towers
side lane,
to
but
death.
like if you are called into a position where you need to do poke damage as a Jace for your team comp to be relevant, which it was in game 2, it's actively really bad.
Well, I know what I'm
But-
practicing for Clash.
Like,
Everyone in Champions queue in top lane is just first item Hullbreaker. So first item Hullbreaker Tryndamere.
Let's
First
go.
item
yeah, like if
Hullbreaker,
that's what you want to
Graves.
build, pick a different champion, maybe.
Or just commit,
Yeah.
Don't show up. Like, they might call for you to teleport to that dragon fight for,
But yeah,
I was going to say Chemtech Soul, but that's gone.
Oh.
They might call you for you to TP to that fight for, like, Hextech Drake Soul or something, but just don't.
Take the Nexus. Win the game.
Take the Nexus. Yeah.
Again, pick Tryndamere.
Push more. Scion with Hullbreaker is good stuff. I recommend. Take
What
it.
else do you recommend, Eric?
I also recommend if you play the new Kamigawa Neon Dynasty format in Magic the Gathering, to play Red. It's really good. That's the end.
Eric, what else do you recommend?
Recommend for what?
I think you're
Steven,
being
I'm
summoned.
trying.
I
I'm
think you're being recommended to do a plug.
Oh, recommend. Oh, I'm being recommended to go to Funky Games and Funky.store and going and buying Funky merch. So
would you recommend going to the Funky Linktree to find some funky stuff?
Yeah, I would actually, and then taking that funky stuff and then playing Mid Scion with Hullbreaker while wearing your funky gear, and really letting them know what gameplay is.
Steven, what can we just? Is there any other projects cooking besides your Legends Arceus playthrough?
Yes, I believe the Halo playthrough for the Poser series is wrapping up. I do believe we'll be soon dropping the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, starting that up. I think there's some Game Brew podcast brewing up. Those are in the kegs and getting all fermented or whatever. So lots of good stuff for you to check out and enjoy. We're basically at daily uploads now. This is a real YouTube channel. Look at that.
There you go. So we'll be back next week. There's a lot of games coming up to look at. I personally have been taking great joy in watching the LCO, as I often do, aka the actual NA Academy League, these days, apparently, since that's where we're getting all of our stuff. There's been some spicy Viger gameplay coming out of both there and the LCK these days, both of the tank and not tank variety.
Nuke
Sometimes
Duck
it's
has
worked,
had
sometimes
Viger
it
banned
hasn't.
against him multiple games now in
What?
LEC. Nuke Duck has had Viger banned against him multiple times now in LEC.
Tally, who I believe has appeared at some Worlds in the past, now playing for Chiefs, needs to start pulling some Viger bans because he's 3-0 on the pick and has just dumpstered fools every time they've pulled it out. Where it did not work as well in the LCK last night, unfortunately. But that is what it is. I believe that was actually Fred Brion's pick in Game 3 of that series where the Jace popped off. But if you're looking for games to keep an eye on, we highlighted the NA games that are the big ones this weekend. The most interesting Korean game is probably the classic telecom war, T1 against KT on Friday early morning, because KT aren't actually half bad this year. They might make playoffs, and T1 have looked a little bit sloppy while they're still undefeated in the league, I think, or at least like 7-1. They've been really, really good. Haven't shown much, so maybe that'll be as interesting as it's been in a while because KT might be competent. Maybe. Any other games you want to highlight this weekend, Eric, that you're seeing?
RNG, LNG should be fun.
Vit Rogue.
Vit Rogue will be good too. This is the second round robin on this, but Rogue has lost a game by now, so
That's true. We didn't talk about that, but that was funny shit. Shout out to you, Astralis. I hope that's your one win the entire split. Ooh, man, KT plays both Dom 1 and C1 this week. That's rough, buddy. Yep, we've hit the big ones. So we'll be back next week to talk through some games. The day I will tell you right now, next week's podcast, we are going to talk about both of the games that happened on the Wednesday morning before we record. V5 EDG in China and T1 Dom 1 in Korea, because those are both going to be a couple of bangers of series coming up next week at about this time. So there's your plug for upcoming games. So we'll be back next week, talk about some more games. It's been Reaction Time. That's Steven. That's Eric. It's been on the funky network of stuff. We'll see you next time. Deuces.